Welcome to the 199 Podcast with HVS. On today's episode, we listen in to a discussion with Dan Woods and Craig Shoobridge on the world of online sports betting, a new to Indiana phenomenon. But first, Billy Packard knows what time it is.
Jim, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Turn it into the 19-9 game.
Before we get into the discussion, I want to encourage everyone to leave us a rating or review. Hit the subscribe button on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen. And if you have time, send a text or email to someone with a link to the episode.
All right, we are back in the podcast studio, and we have a special guest in here today. We have Craig Shoobridge stopping by. Hi, Craig.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hit us.
Bingo.
He hit it with us. So we've been wanting to get Shooby down here for a long time because he is single-handedly the craziest person I've ever met in my entire life, and I think most people that know Shoo will tell you the same thing. So we appreciate you coming down. We got Meyer here.
Are we gonna do the oven story while he's here?
We can. So and then we got Dan down here too. So we're gonna get into some Shooby stories because they're legendary. But we really brought him down here to kind of discuss sports gambling, and we know that Dan is a degenerate gambler too. And then Meyer
used to be bad.
And then Meyer and I are too poor to bet on anything. So, well, Meyer's got soup money though, doesn't he?
He does, but I think it's still open whether he's a degenerate.
Yeah.
Either one of us are, because do you lose sleep?
No.
We're not there.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Did you used to lose sleep?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, the older I get and the more money I have, the less I even think about betting.
Absolutely.
Like, and it doesn't even move you know what I mean? It doesn't move the needle like it used to. And the funny thing
Hashtag
about this
goals,
is I'm going to
Barnett.
start this.
Like
I've
heroin.
never met Shoobridge, but so many people I know tell good stories about him. I feel like I'm back to a guy that I've known for 5 years.
Hey.
So. And they're knuckling already. Oh, boy.
We're at the 1 minute mark.
Yeah, exactly. Both of their wives are going to be like, why did you guys introduce those two dudes?
It'd be terrible.
So here's my Shooby story that I wanted to get to in the intro. So EJ, who's in studio with us too, sitting over there, EJ had just first started working at school with all of us. And I said, come on, man, we got to go up to Shoobridge, who he already had met Shoobridge. I was like, you got to hear some of these stories. Like, Shooby, you got to tell EJ some of your stories. So I love to get around Craig because I'm always like, hey, remember this one? Tell him this one. Tell him this one. Tell him this one. So we walk out of the room after, what was it, probably 45 minutes of stories. We walk out of the room, and I'm like, listen, man, I know that some of those stories seem unbelievable, but you're going to meet people in the community that are going to verify every one that he's said. Because I thought the same thing when I first met Shooby. Like, there's no way this shit can be real. And it turns out all of them are real. Fast forward that night, EJ helps me at an event for 99 down here in Evansville, and we go out to Tironi's. So it's him and Emily and me and Amy, and I think the Brivogels were there too, weren't they, EJ? Yeah. Yeah, so the Brivogels were there. And so we're telling some of these stories to the wives that Shoobridge had told, and I was telling EJ again, I'm like, you'll just meet people in the community that know, not shitting you, a guy 4 tables down stands up, walks down to our table and says, you boys talking about Craig Shoobridge? And I am hitting EJ's leg underneath the table. And I'm like, here it comes. I tried to tell you. He goes, that son of a bitch is nuts.
I like to have when I say I like to have a good time, I just like to be around people, man. You know what I mean? Like to be around people. Freaking like to treat them right, have a good time.
You're a big teddy bear.
I am.
No good story ever starts while I was by myself. It literally never happens. It's always with
That's a
someone.
good point.
But the funny part about the Shoobridge stuff is a lot of your stories that people tell about you, people wouldn't believe other stories about you too.
We're going to keep those off air.
There's some good ones.
I've actually got
It's
some
the
pretty
Josh
good stories
Barnett
being by
podcast.
myself.
The original Pound It.
Yeah, those were wild. The crazy, I don't know, you and I have had some wild things, but that 18 tee box at one of those Pound It's was one of the craziest things I've ever.
And
been
if
a part
you
of.
weren't open to like a good time, you hated it.
I mean, I'm talking about hated it.
You dreaded it. Like, hey, I'm done at 17. I'm taking the cart back. When your dad then pull out a baseball tee and you think the waste management that you think that whole do it by 100 guys, 0 cares in the world, and just absolute hatefulness right there. It's like
wild.
nothing I've ever seen.
So we brought these guys down here to talk a little bit about sports gambling because it just got legalized not too long ago in Indiana, and they really hit the airwaves and commercials with the DraftKings and stuff. Like, you can't get away from it. You can't escape it down here. But I know both of you guys bet through bookies. I know that both of you guys get on the DraftKings and what's the other one? FanDuel and all that stuff. But Shooby, tell the story about how you first got into your first ever bet. Tell that story for everybody.
Well, so I'm a sophomore. I'm a college baseball player. Okay, broke, old country boy. Dad's a bricklayer. I'm not calling home asking for $50 here and there, and I run across a guy that's talking about making a bet, and he's talking about like throwing $20 on the Dallas Cowboys Monday Night Football versus the Giants in 1994. And I'm like, so what do I got to have to do this? And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like,
I need a
$20.
license.
Do can I put 10 on it? Like, he goes, he said, well, you can put whatever you want on it. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you put whatever you want. I'm like, I put $500 on it?
Oh,
Yeah, you can put $500 on it. I'm like, and I'm a math guy, and the spread is 13.5, and I'm like, well, that's not 14. That means they win by 2 touchdowns. I win, right? Yeah. At this time, I didn't know what a push was. So I'm like,
he was counting on that as well.
I'm like, okay, I've got to go to night class. Can you throw 500 on the Cowboys for me?
First bet. This is his first bet.
Oh my God.
Okay. And he said, are you sure? Yeah. If you lose, can you pay it? I said, they're not going to lose. It's 13.5. I don't know. I go to class. Okay. I drive to class. I'm walking to class. And I start just breaking out and like just sweat, like even. I mean, just,
But this is pre-cell phone.
This is
You're
pre-cell
not
phone.
like following it on your phone.
no,
or
you're
Twitter
calling
or
from
Twitter.
you're calling from your campus, and we're calling from our campus
dorm phone
to another campus, like a couple of hours away. I mean, this isn't this is not a bookie. We don't have a bookie on campus. Okay, this is a guy a couple hours away.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I go to
That's
class.
a little
and,
foreshadowing.
And I come back and walk into back into the apartment. And the guys are all like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, and I'm just sweating. I'm like, I can't go to class. What do you mean? I'm like, well, what? And then at this point, I'm finally like, what if I lose? I lose $500. And the guy looks at me and says, "No, you lose $550." I'm like, what are you talking about? There's juice. Juice? 10%. Okay, I know what 10% is. So if I lose $550. Yeah. It didn't matter whether it's 5 or 550.
Yeah.
So Monday Night Football game's getting ready to start, and I just have to go in my room. I can't watch it. Okay, so I go in the room, and I hear them yelling and screaming. I come out after the first quarter. It's 0-0.
Oh my God.
Go back in, lay down, put a pillow over my head, sweating.
This is it.
They're out there screaming and hollering. Every time they scream and holler, I don't know. I have no, because they're either making fun of me, they're laughing because I'm going to lose $550, or they're excited for me. I come out. I got some notes here because I went back and looked. I come out halftime, 14-3 Dallas.
Oh God.
We're getting there. We're getting
Feeling
there.
pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Still have to go back in the bedroom. I still can't stand it. Still can't watch it.
Probably got a good middle if you
Okay.
really wanted to in today's world, but they was no middle
Yeah.
back then.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
the best part is I have no idea what that
You
even
don't know?
means.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
See, I know
yeah.
what all
We'll
the terms
explain
mean.
Yeah. So then, huge third quarter by the Cowboys, 35-3 after 3.
Boy, you're feeling.
fi-
You're out of the
I'm
bedroom.
out
at
of
this
the
point. Okay, good.
bedroom and
Already spending the
crushing-
money.
Yeah. Oh yes. Already. Okay. Harpo's tomorrow night. Show bar on Saturday.
Hey, how many people showed up here thinking they're going to get a Harpo's reference?
I have no idea what that is.
Shoobridge didn't even tell how old he is. Everybody knows exactly how old
Yeah,
he is. Right
exactly. that Harpo's reference
Yeah.
like predated the cell phone thing that I said earlier too. Like
Yeah.
they knew cell phones weren't involved.
35-3. I got to hear the end of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the end of it. I mean, I'm at this point in time, I was confident enough that I'm betting a 13.5 point spread because I think that 2 touchdowns is, it's 14 points I get. And I mean, we're crushing. So I'm like, it's parties on, and they win. I try to go back and they won like 40-10 or something like that.
So did you ever stop betting from that moment on?
So the next weekend,
No is the answer.
I'm a Raiders fan. Okay, so this Monday night game, it's a Monday night game. That's the only game on, so that's where it started. Next weekend, I've got a lot of games I can bet.
Oh, open up the whole.
The worst thing
It's a
ever.
world.
Worst thing
Yeah,
ever.
this is a world.
But
that
I
you've
just picked
dove
2.
into.
I just picked 2. Though. I picked my Raiders.
Restraint.
Picked my Raiders, which at that time
Also.
were, believe it or not, were actually favored by 3 points. And then, of course,
last
Dallas
time.
just, Dallas. They just won me 5. I'm gonna throw money on both of them. If one loses, at this point, I get to 10%. Throw 50 on both of them.
Had that figured out now.
Yeah, throw 50 on both of them. One wins, one loses. I only lose $5, and I'm still up at this point $395. Okay, or $355.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so the Raiders, the score is tied at the end of the game. What the hell happens there? I don't know. What you pushed. I pushed what? Like I
Push
pushed
your
all. I
money to
pushed all
someone
in. Like
else.
I got to bet again. Like
Push your money to
Hey,
someone
just
else.
show me who I need to
Table,
push to
what-
get my money back.
Like, no, it's a tie. I'm like, why don't you just call it a tie? Okay. And then the Cowboys just get destroyed. And so I lose 55 there, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm cashing out. I'm never betting again. I'm taking my money. I'm going to enjoy myself. And so I called the bookie and said, I'm done. Just send my money, please. And he's like, seriously? I said, yeah. And he's like, why? I was like, because you can't win at this. Basically is what I told him. Even though I just won, I'm like,
You
no.
went 1-1-1.
I went
and
1-1-1, so you can't win at this. I figured it out. I mean, that quick, okay? And then that turned into about 2 days later, the guy that hooked me up with him, he calls me back. My buddy calls me. He says, hey, would you be interested in running a book on campus?
That was the segue I was about to make. So Shoobridge goes from making his first bet at $500 to quitting gambling to becoming the bookie on campus. And you have to tell
It's a wise
you
choice.
have to tell the story because Dan will love this story
You
too.
became the man.
And I don't know if Meyer even knows this story or EJ for that matter, but you got to tell the story of going home for break and getting the phone call.
Yeah, let's leave the campus out of this
right.
now,
I did.
okay?
I did.
So,
We just said on campus.
yeah, so this goes down, and I go, I get 10% of the book.
What's your bankroll when you start this, mind you? Like how much money
That
do you have to your name?
No, I'm
That
getting-
500 that he won on that.
Yeah, but here,
That was it.
What happens here is that this gentleman is 2 hours away and wants me to just run the book there, and I get 10% of whatever he wants.
so you're
So
in
I don't have
good
to bankroll
shape.
anything.
Yeah, that's a
no,
good
I have
deal.
to bankroll
She'll
anything.
be down here handing out gentlemen's left and right now. He's calling everybody.
I don't
I
have
like
to
it.
bankroll anything at this point. I'm just running the
free roll.
book. And
You got a 10% free roll.
Yeah.
10%. Okay. So this goes. What you ask again? I'm
The
sitting here
phone
laughing.
call when you went
Oh,
on break.
so all right. So this is. We're going to again. No cell phones. No cell phones. It's Christmas break. Okay. You leave campus. My mom is like, "Why are we getting all these phone calls?" Greg, so and so's called. So and so. We're not talking, Coach. Your coach is calling you.
He was taking action from his coaches, and his coaches were blowing
He
him
said,
up at like 2:30 in the
Just
morning
one.
on
He
break.
says it's important. He needs to talk to you. What have you done? Like, what did you do? Did you miss?
Are you going home?
Did you
Is
miss
this-
practice?
is
Was
this
there a scheduled workout? You just
Craig,
like,
are you flunking out of school? Like,
Yes.
no, Mom, he just owes me money.
no,
you
he's
worry, I
just wanting to.
Booked his bet.
Yeah, and so he's and I'm like, fine. It's like, hey, listen, you got to stop. Like this is Christmas break. I'll get back in. Well, I'm down. I need to. I'm like, I get this, but it's Christmas break.
I
And
gotta
you need to
re-up.
stop calling my house.
Trying to
I'm
fire.
still
him.
living with my
Yeah.
mom. You have to stop calling her house.
So
Second line.
yeah, that was interesting. The non-cell phone era.
I got one more Shooby story that is amazing. It's the word story. Can you tell that one in a legit way?
I can tell the word story for sure.
I mean, can you tell it in a way that is descriptive? Like people that don't know word, you gotta throw in the description of
like
all of
no,
it.
I've got the whole like
And
when
the
the
Kelly
garage
backstory
door
and all of it.
like when it goes up and stuff. No, so here, all right,
So he's still a bookie at this point.
still a
right?
bookie and then and right before that, too, real quick, the whole 1995 Sports Illustrated issue comes out on sports gambling and booking and college campuses and how much college students are losing on the game. And we're on a trip, baseball trip to South Carolina, and my coach is like got this article and calls me in front of the bus. It's like, I need you to read this. So I mean, it was
Is this the same coach that had you placed?
No, it wasn't. No, and then we even at that time our athletic director even called an all sports team meeting and like had it in. There's 450 athletes in a room just staring at me while he's talking about, But anyways, so my wife has this. She's one of her high school friends gets a hold of me and says, "Hey," says, "a buddy of mine would like to he'd like to make some bets. I've made some bets through you. Can you hook him up here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm not the bookie at this time, but I have a bookie and I vouch for this guy. And I say, I know him. My wife knows him. We have other mutual friends, and he'd like to make a bet or two. So he does. He loses. It's not much. It's maybe $150 or something. Okay. And, but then that turns into, after a couple of weeks, he doesn't pay it. And so I have to fork it up. So I fork it up, right? I fork it up, and then another month goes by, and I'm texting back and forth with this guy, and he's just just super nice guy. Just like, I'll get it to you when I can, and I apologize, and just
Great dude. He's a great dude.
Great, and I've never met him face to face. Okay,
he doesn't know what he looks like.
No clue.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
no clue what this guy looks like. My wife knows him like very well. She doesn't say anything, and I'm just finally it gets to a point. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to be a little. I'm gonna have to be a little harder on this guy, So I start seeing some messages like, listen, it's been long enough. You need to get here. Like, seriously, I'm tired of this shit. And, you seem like a nice guy, but you need to pay your damn debt, and let's get this done. Let's get it over with, blah, blah, blah. That turns into another couple of weeks. So finally, this guy texts me and says, all right, I'm coming. What's your address? And I tell him, and so I tell my wife, I said, hey, guy's coming over to finally pay. She says, okay, fine. That's good. So he calls. I hit the garage door. Garage door's slowly going up.
But tell you like you're heated.
It
You're
sounds
ready
like
to-
I'm heated. No,
It's
I'm
like Breaking Bad.
When I
this
say I'm
guy.
heated, I'm just like, I'm confident. Like, you know what? This guy's got to know that he can't do this shit. You
Right.
can't just like make a bet, blah, blah, blah. So the garage door's going up, and I'm like, I'm going to lay down the law here on this guy. It
Walter White here.
never ends. Like, by the time my garage door is up, it hasn't even made it to his chin yet. And I can see his chest, his tits.
He doesn't have a shirt on.
Doesn't
right?
have a shirt on. His waist is the size of my calf, and his chest is, this guy is huge.
But at that point,
Enormous.
you're all in.
I'm all in.
There's
I
no
can't go
pulling
back. Can't go back. Nope, can't go back. Walk up, introduce, hey, he introduced, himself. How you doing? Doing great. I'm just looking up. I just staring, and I'm just like all business, man. Like I'm looking up like this. Holy shit. This dude is huge, but I'm not going back. And he is the nicest guy. I'm sorry.
But
and,
hey,
I'm
but
just reading him right. Like, listen, man, you
Shooby
can't
lays into him.
lay into him. You can't do this. And he's just looking down at me about 8 inches. Like, I know, man.
So-
I apologize. I don't. And I'm just like, no, seriously. I was like, holy shit.
So
This dude just
but the
pounded
best
me.
part of the story is when you go back into the house
Yeah, go back into the house. Just
after he leaves.
absolutely rip my wife's ass. Walk in, look at her, I go, why didn't you tell me he was that big? She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this dude's a monster. I just told you I was going to go out there and like light him up. And you never said one. You know him. You like. She goes, oh yeah, he's a big guy.
So this is for those people who don't bet, the legalization of sports has made it so much better for everything, because now what used to be done in the dark, where you had to call a guy and get a guy and go pay, and the disaster, now you still have a guy, which most people do if you ever need it, because the problem is when you go out of state, you can't do anything. So, but now, and I'll say this from my perspective, you can only lose what you put on there. That's the difference in today. And now your doctor, your lawyer, your teacher, the people who are scared to be caught gambling now can go get and put $50 on whatever game. And if you don't have a FanDuel or DraftKings account and they're giving away free money, you're an idiot. Like when the Colts are plus 47, and I thought that there was a chance they didn't cover for a second. But when IU is like plus 111 and they're giving away free $50.
Yeah, hey, can you explain that?
Okay, so
explain that because my brother-in-law Dave was explaining that to me, but for the listeners that
so
don't
so
know
think
what you're
about
talking
so think about this from a gambling perspective, right? It's like a casino. I don't actually win money until I walk out of that son of a bitch. Like I may be up 650, but until I walk out with 650, it's just fake. It's not even real dollars. So what they do is
that's how I look at my bank account when I just see like the numbers on a website. I'm like, well, fuck, this doesn't mean anything.
When I get paid, mortgage is coming up. That's like real money. Like, let's get out of here.
Like, I want to go to Fifth Third and ask for like $523 in gold bars. Like, can you make this tangible for me, please?
So in terms of this, so here's what it does. These companies have found a way that they know you're not going to take it off. Like once it's on there, like they're trying to get that action because the addiction of it. So say they make a thing where you can bet $50 on a game and it's guaranteed to win. So with the juice, you're really making like 95. So your 50 gets you back 45. Your original 50 gets you $95. So you had to put 50 on there somehow. So they got your 50. Most people aren't cashing the 95 out. It's like, I got $95. How easy was that? There's got to be. Michigan's for sure going to beat somebody by
Well, I heard
this.
part of that Michigan State IU deal was they were just wanting people to have money in their account for the Super Bowl,
They
to
want
start
access,
just
yeah.
putting it right back in.
Yeah,
type
and
thing.
that's the thing.
But
And
that's really cool that apps can do that bookies never did, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, the hard part about the thing that's killed the books is if you refer a friend, you get money. If you do these things and the free bets, you could never get that. And the fact that you don't have to jump through hoops.
So, but we were talking off mic with both of you guys, and even with the apps making it easier and more fun, both of you still go through bookies and bet. Shoo, how come?
He's my buddy. We've had a relationship for so many years, and he's a DraftKings and a FanDuel guy too. He's gone there and got the free money and stuff. But
you still use the apps though too. You just bet.
I
through
do
all
use.
three.
Yeah, I use the apps, and it's it's one of those things where it's maybe I've already bet with him, and it's like you said, you can't. You're trying to get those half-point lines, or you get a few beers in you, and it's you bet the over on a game. And it's not even going to come close to it with your bookie. And so, you know what? I'm going to jump on here and I'm going to freaking hedge my bet.
Yeah.
And start, and so that's what's been nice about it for me is that I've been able to hedge some of my bets that I bet with my bookie by getting on there. And if I see that I'm going to lose a over and under by 30 points and I can, jump on there and hit it on there possibly, then it's worked out. And it does. I mean, you can hedge, people are like, well, you shouldn't hedge your bets. Well, it's different when you're betting with your bookie and then you're jumping online and you're getting a completely different line.
And you shop lines. Like, that's the one thing, too. So think about this the other day. Okay, I'll just give you a game. Michigan State, Illinois the other day, right? Michigan State goes on the road. If you got it early, Michigan State was a 1-point favorite. If you got it late, 1.5, 2 points. So if you're using a guy and you're using FanDuel and DraftKings and you get it from there, so you got it for a point there. Well, your bookie has it at 1.5 and DraftKings may have it at 2. You buy the best line. So if you have three ways of action, and truthfully, DraftKings and FanDuel does a really good job of being able to buy out of games. Like if you think that you're, say I've got a 3-team parlay and I've got $20 on it, that's going to pay me $120 if it wins. If I've got 2 legs home and I'm halfway in the other one and I don't feel great about it, I may be able to buy out of that for 90, and it's a win. Where bookies, that's just not an option.
When have you never felt great about when they're going to buy you out and you just keep letting it go?
I fired my – the funny thing is now, like I have a good job and all that stuff, and it doesn't money – it's a different world. But if I put $50 on a game, like that moves the needle. Where back in the day I was making like $7 an hour. I'd have $70 on a game. Be like, I got to work 10 hours tomorrow to break that. I mean, it's such a backwards way of thinking. And it's just getting older. It's like it was the vice.
The other thing with bookies, they've got their plate full as far as just the line itself. So you don't get the money lines. You don't get the halftime. That's what I've been doing.
Even like prop bets and stuff have to be just rampant on those apps as opposed to through a bookie.
$5
you can do anything.
$5 parlays with like 8 teams or 10 teams or something
all the time,
like that.
yeah.
That you can just
There's just so much more that they can do and that they can offer just through
the only advantage. The advantage of using a guy is that it's credit, so you're not posting the money up. And especially if you share a bank account with your wife, she doesn't ever see that. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you the honest to God truth. Like that doesn't happen in mine. Like my wife will Tell you straight up.
That's because she makes all the money, Dan.
She does. When I say like financially, I'm in a better. I married a person who makes a good amount of money. Good
You're
for
a
me.
lot smarter than you look.
Here's the other thing with it: your kids.
I don't know what you mean.
I'm
But you were
waiting
you
for
was saying, man, that
your kids up?
stare, that stare was something else though when
I'm
he dropped
getting
it.
my son into this to where, he's got, maybe $100 in his room or something like that from birthdays and this and that. And I'm like, Luke, I just threw.
Oh shit!
I just
thought he was
threw.
going the other way. Like
No.
I'm getting my
I
kids
didn't
out
do
of
that.
it.
No, I'm betting.
No,
it.
I
I'm
wanna
getting
teach
him
him
a.
a
We are firing on the Duke game.
Luke, I just threw $20 on a 10-team parlay that's gonna pay $9,000.
Luke,
Okay,
go get your goddamn piggy bank right now, son. Get out here.
I look at him. He says, "I'm like, do you want half of this?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I bet 20 to win 9,000. Do you want 10 of it? Go get a $10 bill. Give it to me."
How old is this kid?
12.
Hey, and a future GM in the NBA too. The
That's
dude
really
is
a story.
unbelievable.
And so he goes and gets me a $10 bill. No juice on this. Let him know. I'm like, so he's like, so if we win, you win $4,500. And he's like, all right. He comes back in a half hour later. How we looking, Dad? I said, we lost the first game.
First leg gone.
Gone.
So I got.
And
goes,
so,
what about-
and so
what-
is your $10.
Yeah. What about the other 9 teams? It doesn't matter.
Nope.
No.
So have
Doesn't
you guys?
matter.
Have you ever bet?
Only when I was out in Vegas just recently.
So with March Madness coming, will you bet at all?
No, I won't bet probably, but I do want to have you guys both on for March Madness so you can look at like round 1 matchups and stuff. I think it would be fun to kind of get down here and discuss your betting strategies and stuff like that.
So
too.
I don't claim to be a good gambler in any, because if anybody tells you they're a great gambler out in a sports betting environment, they're
Shooby will tell you
absolutely-
that.
they're
No,
lying to you.
I don't do
College
this.
basketball.
But
is the
no,
worst.
it's entertainment. So the biggest thing about college basketball, I've done well in the last couple NCAA tournaments, following one guideline: take dogs in the first round matchups.
This is valuable information we can save for that next.
We'll
one,
get it
though.
there. We'll get it there.
Okay.
He
And
can be
then-
more
Oh, we've got
specific
plen-
then.
And then
We've got
take
plenty of material.
and then take the favorites after that dog is just knocked off like the 4 seed. Then take the favorite because they're getting super value. So because the first day is usually, now the past couple of years it hadn't been crazy, a bunch of upsets, but the Vegas point spread keeps going lower and lower for those underdogs.
I thought it would be fun to get you guys back in here, obviously for March Madness, maybe for the conference tourneys too, but I'll be out of town for that, but Meyer can probably run that for you. Get the conference tourneys and then get March Madness, and then obviously come back for the NBA playoffs too. I thought we could maybe work Luke in there with some of Luke's wisdom through you for the NBA stuff too.
Yeah, when you guys have Luke on, I'll just sit back here and keep my mouth shut because I don't understand 95% of what he's talking about.
Shoobridge usually just sits next to him and berates him about how much he does not like
Doesn't
the NBA.
know. Yeah.
And Luke is unfazed by it.
Loves the NBA.
Dude, he loves it. Loves it. It's crazy.
And we're talking salaries and trash contracts, and I mean we're not talking about like teams.
He's like a
and
miniature
players.
Meyer. Look at Meyer over
And
there. Look
he
how
is
happy he
like-
is.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, so it's instead of asking Luke who's your favorite player, you ask him what are the 4 worst contracts in the NBA. That's the kind of questions you got to ask.
The
this
funny
guy.
thing is, like,
Is that
Meyer,
a question right now?
No, Meyer's ready to answer.
Yeah.
Like, calm down over there.
I liked Meyer when I first met him. I like him less and less as it goes along. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
All right.
Goal
Well, hey,
achieved.
I want to kind of wrap this up, put a bow on it, but I want to thank you guys for coming down here. We're going to do it again. We'll get both you guys back on here, talk more betting, because I want to get into your win-win strategies. It's something that we didn't touch on, and I know that you got a lot more stuff written on there, but I want to break it up into multiple pods. So I'm gonna cap it now so we can get out of here, get home, and then we'll bring you guys back and do it again.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
on,
man.
buddy.
Thank you for listening to the 99 podcast with HVS, the high volume shooters. For more information, check out the blog at 199.com under HVS. And while you're there, pick up some of the best basketball apparel on the planet. Until next time.